Okay, hey everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Objects Unknown, the quick dive. I'm Terry McMahon, your host and founder of Objects Unknown, and I'm really happy to be here with you. We're just going to get right into this. No dilly-dallying here. And if you've never been to Objects Unknown before, big difference between us and a lot of other channels, and there are some great channels out there, don't get me wrong, but we don't do any clickbait. We don't do any BS evidence. We don't do any ridiculous speculations. We keep our minds in research in the one place where it matters, and that's in the space image and video archives from the 50s, 60s, 70s, all the way up to an hour ago from around the world and a few other trusted sources, because we believe that's where the real action is. That's where we believe the real rock and roll is. That's where we believe the real evidence of whether or not there's an extraterrestrial presence here in our solar system right now is. And to prove that to you, let's jump into this. So we did this post a couple of days ago. I want to take a quick dive on it because I think it's really important if you realize what we may be looking at. Did a post on some images we found from, I believe, Apollo 12, 1972. They're in lunar orbit. And in one of the images, they catch a couple of gigantic objects, craft, machines, whatever you want to call them, in lunar orbit with them. And here they are. I want you to consider this. Now, Apollo is above the lunar surface, I think about 200 kilometers up in altitude. These objects are far away. I estimate, it's only a guesstimate, 40 to 100 miles away, but they are large objects, if that is true. And by the way, it's the moon, so there shouldn't be any objects that aren't ours, we think, in orbit with them. But nonetheless, there are these two big objects. They are there. These objects in this image, these are not debris. They're not an eyelash, a fingernail on the emulsion, all that stuff you hear. No, these are in the image. So let's just take a quick look at these. Look at these. I'm going to zoom up on it a little bit. You can see we have really what looks to be two or three objects. On the left here, this large object, you can see shadowing. Looks like it has two, for lack of a better word, legs or appendages on this machine or craft. Kind of a bigger body back here, and kind of a squarish, rectangle object on the head of it. It almost looks like something like a walker out of Star Wars. I hate to say that, but I know you see that too. Below it, you can see some shadowing, what could be a platform that these 2 feet here are connected on. Do you see that? Almost like a sled. That's the only way I can describe it. In front, what are we looking at? Well, this is a separate object. These 3 objects or 1 object almost look tethered to the larger object behind it, as if it's pulling it to the right. Do you see that? Now, that may not be true, but it honestly kind of looks like that. There's some hints that that could be happening, but forget all that. What are these 2 or 3 huge machine-like, craft-like objects doing in lunar orbit with Apollo? They are there. You can see the shadowing. The light is right. They're reflecting sunlight. These are objects off in the distance doing something. Look at this just for a moment and consider what that means. We see so many of these things, I don't think we really even realize anymore what this means. This is what, 60, 70, 60 years ago? Or less than that, 52 years ago? We are looking at evidence of an extraterrestrial presence on the moon, everyone. And this is some of the best visual evidence I think we've seen in a long time of real objects in reality. Now, you can always speculate, well, maybe it's us, maybe it's a black project, something we don't know. Yeah, maybe, but this is almost 60 years ago, and honestly, I don't think we have tech this advanced and had it this advanced 70 years ago to where this was just us and it was being hidden from us and they didn't tell Apollo. And, come on, you can always speculate, but I think the more reasonable explanation is no, I think maybe there's an extraterrestrial presence on the moon, and all the UFOs we see every day around the world are coming from the moon. In fact, where this object is, just want to tell you, we have a post coming up where we believe we're going to have some pretty good evidence of a base on the far side of the moon. If you look at the moon on any full moon, right-hand upper quadrant, okay? If you look up there and go behind the moon about 200-300 miles, there's a crater called Penneoke. I think I'm pronouncing it correct. Penneoke. And on the top of that crater, there were some images that came from one of the missions, one of the orbiter missions, that show evidence of a gigantic 3-mile long base. And it's on Penneoke. And I think this is where these things are coming from. A lot of things people pick up on telescopes nowadays where they see craft leaving the moon supposedly or going back to the moon or landing. They're almost all in the right-hand upper quadrant. Check that out next time you see some of those on YouTube and remember what I said. But look at what we're looking here. We may be looking at real alien objects doing something on the moon. This one's impressive. Look, just soak this in for a second, because if these are objects, and I can tell they are, and you can too, then who are they? What are they? These objects have to be hundreds of feet long, by the way, from the distance that they are from Apollo. You see between these two legs right here at the bottom would look like, I'm just calling two legs 2 feet. You can see the space between them to see that they're two separate objects. Can you see that? Yeah. You're looking at real objects in reality in 1972 on an Apollo mission, and nobody knows what they are. But I think we do. This is significant. This is huge. This is image evidence. And this is Terry McMahon from Objects Unknown, and this was the quick dive. Thanks for hanging out with me. Got lots more to come, so stay tuned. Subscribe to our channel. Follow us. We're just getting going.